One last ride in the regular season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Here's why this game still means plenty to the Bolts and how they'll start preparing for the postseason.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, welcoming you to another episode of Locked On Lightning and thanking you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And first thing we're going to talk about today is the game tonight against the New York Rangers. Bolts have beaten the Rangers by 4 goals in both of the prior games against the Blue Shirts, including a 5-1 victory in Madison Square Garden on April the 7th. Now, 10 days after that game, the Bolts are back at the world's most famous arena to take on the New York Rangers in game number 82 of the NHL season. The Lightning in the playoffs, the Rangers not. And the former President's Trophy winners underachieved this season, finishing 5th in the Metropolitan Division. Could drop as low as 6th, but again, playoffs are not for New York this year. The Lightning, I think, need to still win this game. Seeding is unaffected. The Lightning are probably going to be resting plenty of players. I'd expect Jonas Johansson to be in goal for Tampa, so Andrei Vasilevskiy can rest for the postseason. And the Lightning are already kind of banged up. You have a couple of forwards injured. Cam Atkinson just called up, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But, you're not going to see everyone from Tampa. I'm sure you're going to see a fully different lines. I'd still like to see Gensel just so he can get those 2 goals and take Brian Bradley's record for the most goals in their first season with the team. But again, I'd still expect John Cooper to rest a majority of his players. I mean, the thing is, though, in hockey, it's a bit harder to do. You carry just about the necessities for a game. It's not like the Lightning have a whole other lineup that they're just resting on their bench. So you're still going to have to see some of the players as the Lightning prepare for the postseason. But I think the one thing that we can pretty much write is Jonas Johansson getting his first career start against the New York Rangers. I'd be pretty shocked if Andrei Vasilevskiy was in the net before the postseason. Power play and penalty kill, I think, will be a big once again. The Lightning in the top 10 in both. The Rangers 11th in penalty kill, but 27th in power play percentage over the course of the season. And one more reason the Lightning, I think, need a win. Ending this season on a 3-game win streak against 3 Eastern Conference teams, 2 in the division, would be a great way, I think, for the Tampa Bay Lightning to finish the season. The Lightning already have the important points of 2025 locked up, got into the postseason, finished 2nd in the Atlantic Division, exceeded expectations of just about everyone who was doubting this team after the departure of Steven Stamkos. Unclear what was going to come of the Jake Gensel signing, which turned out to be the best move of free agency, and I don't think there is a debate on that. If there is, shoot us a message at LO_Lightning on X, and I will happily tell you why you're wrong. So this game is mainly about momentum, I think, for Tampa Bay. The Rangers season is done. They're going to be testing out some prospects. They're going to be fighting for their last shred of dignity left in this 2025 season, while the Lightning are going to be trying some new things for the postseason. But I'm a big believer in momentum. And sure, the Lightning probably won't even be thinking about this game once the Stanley Cup playoffs start and the Lightning are staring across the ice at their biggest rival in the Florida Panthers. But I still think that the momentum factor is important enough. I think a team will always feel better, no matter the sport, no matter the time of year. Any team is going to feel better coming off a victory rather than a loss. Even if it's at the end of the season and everyone is playing their bench players. Everyone is testing out, some new strategies, some new line combinations, what have you, for the next season in the final game of the year. But I think for a playoff team, it's always good to just end your year on a high note. Obviously, both teams want to do that. The Lightning would be somewhat playing spoiler for the Rangers in front of their home fans. The last game for legendary broadcaster Sam Rosen before Kenny Albert takes over. There's still a lot of fun storylines to watch coming into this game, but I think this is a game the Lightning are certainly gonna go after. The injuries are certainly a factor, I think. Lightning have been going 11-7 for the better part of the end of the season. I think partly due to injury, partly due to the fact that their fourth line center, Luke Glendening, is among those injured, and they're hoping to have him back for the playoffs. But right now, the Lightning are missing technically an entire line of forwards. Mitchell Chaffee out after a dirty hit by Puljujarvi from the Panthers back on Tuesday. Who else is out? Bjorkstrand is still week to week. Not expected to be back, at least for the start of the playoffs. Hopeful that he'll even be there at all. But a lower body injury has sidelined one of the Lightning's key pickups from the trade deadline. And that's certainly a tough blow. And then Luke Glendening has been out for a little while before these last couple of games. That's a full line of forwards. The Lightning brought in Connor Geekie and Cam Atkinson from Syracuse to replace them, and they've been using that 11-7. And I think this will be really telling because of what the Lightning will go for in the postseason. I still think it's a good idea to mix things up in the playoffs. Have, one or two games a series going 11-7. Maybe the majority going 12-6. But again, a lot of this depends on the health of the Lightning. And it's not like there's a huge difference in terms of how they play, whether they go 12-6 versus 11-7. It's still the same kind of Lightning hockey. And that seventh defenseman, Darren Radish, has such a well-rounded game that he works as, technically a forward, but kind of playing somewhere in the middle. And you don't see a lot of teams in the NHL use 11-7 lines. So I think that it's a really good way for the Lightning in the playoffs to differentiate themselves from the other team and just throw different looks at the opponent. So the Panthers or whoever else the Lightning hopefully play in the later rounds just don't really know what's coming. And I think that could give the Lightning an advantage in the playoffs. So I'd assume that the Lightning will go 11-7 one last time against New York, unless they're really playing the long game and trying to disguise it again. But just because of the lack of forwards right now, we might see that again in New York against the Rangers. Couple guys are on full season watch. Ryan McDonough, Brandon Hagel, Zemgus Girgensons have all played 81 games. I'd imagine that they will be the only three Lightning players to go for a full 82. But especially with Hagel and McDonough, not saying that Girgensons isn't important to the team, but, his physicality, his defensive play, certainly helpful. But I really two players that the Lightning, I think, absolutely need for the postseason are on 82-game watch, and that's McDonough and Brandon Hagel. Hagel has been one of the best offensive players, not just on the Lightning, but in the entire NHL, setting career highs across the board offensively with his first ever 90-point season and his first ever 30-goal season for the Tampa Bay Lightning as well. He's a guy that I think the Lightning absolutely need in the playoffs. He'll definitely be an X factor. And Ryan McDonough, as we talked about earlier this week, he's a guy who has been as important to this Lightning team as anyone. Even the guy who John Cooper absolutely believes, and I absolutely believe that should be the Hart Trophy winner in Nikita Kucherov. So I'd like to see the Lightning rest some guys, but you'd hope that they still pull out a victory against the New York Rangers to try and end the season on a high note and go into the playoffs on a 3-game win streak. That, I think, would be huge for Tampa Bay. And something else that would be pretty big is more award watch for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Victor Hedman is the Lightning's nominee for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. And there are a lot of reasons why I think he is not just the Lightning nominee, but the only choice for the winner of the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. The King Clancy Memorial Trophy is awarded annually to, quote, the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a noteworthy humanitarian contribution in his community. And the King Clancy nominee for the Tampa Bay Lightning is Victor Hedman, their new captain. And the humanitarian part he had covered long before this season. But at the start of the year, if you guys remember, the Lightning and the Tampa Bay community were hit by 2 hurricanes in September and October of 2024. And immediately afterwards, Victor Hedman was one of the first, not just players on the Lightning, but athletes, high-profile celebrities, what have you. He was one of the first people to come out and pledge over $1 million that the Lightning ended up matching to the Tampa Bay community. And that's something that Hedman has done since he got here. He has really ingrained himself in this Tampa community as a leader since long before he had an extra letter on his jersey, whether it was the A or the C. Victor Hedman has been giving back to the Tampa Bay community since he got to Tampa Bay. And the leadership part, I think, is exemplified in the Lightning's record, because you could give all the credit you want to John Cooper, and he deserves it. You can give all the credit you want to just the whole Lightning team coming together as a unit. But I think, especially with the kind of tenuous ground the Lightning were on at the start of the year, a lot of new faces, a lot of new factors, a lot of uncertainty around how the Bolts would be in 2025. They have had a steady hand helping steer the ship and keep everything solid for Tampa Bay. And that has been largely Victor Hedman, the new captain. And I don't think anyone was surprised at the beginning of the season when Hedman was named captain. I think as soon as Stamkos left, you could pencil in Victor Hedman as the next Lightning captain. That wasn't really a debate. I don't even think I had a segment on my show about anyone else who really deserved it more than Victor Hedman. I know I talked about, Kucherov was an option. Andrei Vasilevsky was an option, though it's very rare to see a goalie as part of the leadership team in the NHL. But regardless of any other guys that were mentioned, Victor Hedman was a no-brainer. And day in and day out, he has exemplified that, whether it's just him continuing to be a fixture of the community, because I truly believe that a captain's duties don't end once the team gets off the ice, don't end once the team gets back into their street clothes and walks out of that locker room. A captain's duties as a leader, as a key figure in the community, involve helping out. And that is something that Victor Hedman does more than most. He initially donated $150,000 to the Tampa Bay Strong Initiative after Hurricane Milton. And that is far from the only donation we have seen from Victor Hedman. He works with animal charities, works with mental health charities, and throughout the entire Tampa Bay Strong initiative, throughout really the end of 2024, when a lot of the hurricane fundraising and cleanup was so active, Victor Hedman was there, and he was putting in a lot of work helping out the Tampa Bay Lightning community. And it really seemed like the initiatives that the Tampa Bay Lightning ended up being a part of were spurred by the donation from Victor Hedman and his family. And it really seemed like it was Hedman who started with that $150,000 donation, and then the rest of the dominoes started to fall in the Tampa Bay community. Then the Bucks got active. The Rays we give a pass to because of what happened to Tropicana Field. Then the rest of the Lightning got active. And Hedman getting in that donation almost instantly certainly helped motivate the rest of his team to get involved as well. And I really don't think there has been a better leader and a better example of what true leadership is than Victor Hedman over the course of his first year as Lightning captain in this NHL season. And to me, I think that's why he should win the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. I really don't think that there is another player, at least in my head, who deserves that award more than Victor Hedman. And obviously, best of luck to all the other nominees, but this should be Victor Hedman's award. He's a guy who'll be up for the Norris Trophy for his performance on the ice this season, but it's what he's done in the locker room. It's what he's done in the community. It's what he's done off the ice as well that contributes to Hedman deserving of this honor. And if Hedman can win this award, he will be the first Lightning player in over 10 years, almost 15 years, to win the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. And that was Vincent Lecavalier, one of the two retired numbers by Tampa Bay back in 2008 after the 07-08 season. So a big congratulations on the nomination to Victor Hedman. And he certainly has my vote if I get one. But I truly believe that there is no player in the NHL that better exemplifies leadership. And I mean, the humanitarian contributions are just endless. I feel like a lot of the source material I'm basing this on, courtesy of the Lightning staff writer, Ben Pierce, it doesn't even cover all of what Hedman does. And I'm sure not all of his charitable work is, a press release, but he does so much for the Tampa Bay community and has done so much for the Tampa Bay Lightning team over the course of this season. And, also he has done so much for the franchise, even just since he joined the team, almost 20 years ago. So a big congratulations and a big honor to Victor Hedman for even being nominated for this award. But I truly think that this is his award to lose, and I don't think that he is going to lose it. So pencil in Captain Hedman for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy Award. Side note, he's the captain of the Three Crowns as well. So King Hedman makes sense. It's not just a little brain fart by me. But Victor Hedman might have the inside track to win that award, but the Lightning have a couple players that might be fighting for a roster spot in the postseason alongside their captain. One of those guys is Cam Atkinson, who was signed to a one-year deal in the offseason, but has spent the majority of the second half of the NHL season in the AHL with a Syracuse Crunch. And with the injury to Mitchell Chaffee potentially affecting his playoff eligibility, Cam Atkinson might be in line to make the Tampa Bay Lightning's playoff roster. And in the next segment, we'll talk about why I think, regardless of the injury to Chaffee, Cam Atkinson should be in heavy consideration, if not already penciled in, to the Tampa Bay Lightning's playoff roster in 2025. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire Stick TV 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, one of my personal favorite games, to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6/6E and auto low latency mode, advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Cam Atkinson will be active for the Tampa Bay Lightning against the New York Rangers for the first time in a couple of months. Unfortunately, it is because of an injury to Mitchell Chafee sustained in the game against the Florida Panthers. But Cam Atkinson has provided some valuable minutes to the Tampa Bay Lightning over the course of the 2025 season and has certainly helped out in the AHL as the Lightning continue to develop some of their talent. And before we get into the stats or anything like that, I think there's one big reason right off the bat that Cam Atkinson could be an asset to this Lightning team in the postseason. And I know you guys might be thinking this guy played less than 9 minutes a game for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2025 season, averaging 847 minutes of time on ice in 38 games of the Lightning this season, 4 goals and 5 assists. And Atkinson is 35 years old. What are you doing with, one of the elder statesmen of the NHL in the postseason when these opportunities can be going to a younger player? Atkinson also hasn't played an NHL game in over a month, getting a goal in the March 13th loss against Philly on 2 shots in 13 shifts in 7 minutes of ice time, one of his smallest amounts over the course of this season. But Atkinson is a goal and 2 assists and a margin of +2 over his last 5 NHL games with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So he's still contributing for the Bolts on the offensive side of things. I think one drawback of having Atkinson in there is the lack of physicality. He's smaller, he's older, so he's not going to be dishing out as many hits, and he's not as imposing as a physical presence as maybe a Mitchell Chafee would be, who is one of the team leaders in terms of forwards in hits this season. But one thing that Atkinson has that you can't teach and you can't grow is experience. 35-year-old was a 6th-round pick by the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2008 and has been in the NHL since 2011. He missed the 2022-23 season due to injury, but Atkinson has been in the playoffs. He's been in the regular season, and he has a ton of experience. Though Atkinson hasn't played a playoff game since 2020, in 35 career playoff games in 5 playoff seasons with the Columbus Blue Jackets, Atkinson has 10 goals and 16 assists, including a game-winning goal in his most recent playoff appearance back in 2020. And the experience factor is something that I think is really underrated in today's sports in general, because, Mitchell Chafee might be a more well-rounded player. he might have better numbers than Atkinson so far this season, but he hasn't had that much time in the playoffs. Even guys like Connor Geeky and Gage Gonzalez, who have really emerged for the Tampa Bay Lightning and turned into guys that could be, building blocks of the Lightning's future, they haven't played a game in the postseason either. And it's always good to have an older guy, a guy who has been around the league for a long time, like Cam Atkinson has, 15 plus seasons in the NHL for Cam. Having a guy who's been there and done it is certainly helpful. And I know that the Lightning have some of those players. There's still a large portion of the core from the Lightning's back-to-back Stanley Cup wins earlier this decade. But, when it comes to experience, I don't think that there's enough of that can be passed around. You can look to some of the Lightning players who have won Stanley Cups, but you can also look to some of the other veterans who have been there for the Rooks this season. And I think that's one of the reasons the Lightning picked up Atkinson in the offseason. They knew that they'd have some younger guys making their way into the fold with all the losses that they suffered in the offseason in terms of players leaving. But, you can never have too many guys that are experienced. And Atkinson might not have a whole lot of points, 9 points in 38 games. But to do that in single-digit time on the ice in less than 50 shots is pretty impressive. And, I'm not saying Atkinson should be on the first line in the postseason, but having him there on the bottom six lines could certainly help stabilize some things. And, they're going against the defending Stanley Cup champions who did not lose a lot of players from the same team that beat the Lightning in 5 games in the postseason. And we saw it in the last game that Atkinson played. He had the game-tying goal that sent the Flyers game into overtime back on Thursday, March 13th. So he can step up in clutch situations and still make an impact on the offensive side of things. Now, if the Lightning are fully healthy, it's going to be tough to keep Atkinson around. I think if the Lightning are using extra players on either forwards or defense, it's always important for that Lightning team to carry an extra defenseman in case they go 11-7 against Florida. But I just think that the experience factor of Cam Atkinson is not something that should be taken lightly as the Lightning move towards the postseason. And it'll be curious to see how the Lightning organize their lines against the New York Rangers and where exactly Atkinson is situated. Because that might give a little clue of the Lightning's intentions in the postseason and how they plan to play Cam Atkinson, how they plan to utilize one of their offseason signings. But, some injuries are certainly going to affect things. I don't think Atkinson should take the place of a guy like Connor Geeky or Gage Gonzalez on the third or fourth line, because I think it's very important for them to start getting some playoff minutes and start getting in on the action in their kind of formative years of the NHL. But I think that the experience of Cam Atkinson and the leadership that he provides, and even just the clubhouse presence. I mean, he's a well-liked guy by the entire team, always keeping things light and fun in the Lightning's locker room. So I think he's still someone that could make be a factor for Tampa Bay in the postseason. Obviously, I think Chaffee's injury, if Glendening can come back, if and when Bjorkstrand can come back, because he was still considered week to week over the weekend when it was announced that he would miss the rest of the regular season and it was out indefinitely. So no telling if Oliver Bjorkstrand is going to come back. And I think Chaffee should still be the first one down Atkinson should be the first one down if Mitchell Chaffee comes back. But I definitely think there would be a benefit to having Cam Atkinson on the Tampa Bay Lightning playoff roster. And that is where we're going to leave it tonight. Tomorrow we'll go over the Rangers game and give you a little summary of the regular season as we get set for the Battle of Florida in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm Josh Sperber, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, make sure to check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please do the same with this one, wherever you listened to today's podcast. First off, thanks again. And please give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe. We do the show for you all, the fans, and we appreciate your support. So thank you again from everyone here at Locked On Lightning, and have a great Thursday. Go Bolts, and enjoy the end of the regular season.